Well,
Yeah, so who are we separately and together? You want me to start?
Yeah, you can.
Who am I by myself? I think by myself, and I appreciate y'all sending these questions prior to, but it still was like hard for me to think about. Um, by myself, I'm very I guess excitable is the word. I'm very emotional person. A very I get really excited about things. I feel hard. Um, I I have really bad anxiety. Um, I am really really people focused. So I tend to focus on I tend to when I solve problems, I consider people and how they'll be affected before finding the solution. So I would say again, I'm very people oriented, very emotional. I consider myself an empath because what other people feel, I feel like I feel it too. It affects my mood. Um, in Christ, I feel like I am um I guess those exact things. I feel like Christ is I'm still a work in progress, but I feel more and more um being of service and having a career in service is a part of my purpose. So
Yeah. So individually, I don't know. That's a pretty broad question. So I'm individually, of course, a son. All right. I'm a individually, I'm a husband. I'm a father.
I don't think about roles.
Yeah, those are some roles I guess that I have, and I am so I'm a I guess a big picture thinker. I'm a so I've been uh, I'm a logical thinker. I think I lean towards that way more. Of course, I'm a Christian, so it's a big part of how I make decisions. Um, I'm a Black man, so that's part of how I make decisions, how I experience life. Yeah, so yeah, and then career wise, counselor. Am I missing something? A
No, I'm
counselor
just
and
saying you answered the question really
did I?
quick.
I don't know. Like so, I'm a yeah. So I'm a counselor. So that affects how I what I do every day, and that affects how I make decisions, right? And yeah, I don't know. I guess that like who you are is such a like I said, it encompasses so much. So um
And then
I'm
who
from
we
the
are together.
South. Yeah.
Who we are together.
Southern together. Who are we together? I don't know.
I feel like we balance each other out. Um, I like I just said, I'm kind of I get really excited, really feeling oriented. Uh and I feel like being logical that helps us balance each other out. Um we because I feel like when like situations arise, I get really excited sometimes. And being maybe the one who kind of uh I don't know, even kind of evens it out. Like you just more, yeah, you're more logical. Like I feel like you're thinking things through, and I'm more like I'm gonna run with it based on my feeling as opposed to you kind of spend time thinking it through.
Yeah, I agree. I think so if I like together, I think together we're parents. And so we have to work together to parent our little one. Um together we're I don't know, I think together we're in ministry. Together we work together and how we serve other people. I think that's a thing that we do together. I think it's things that's important to us too. Um, I think for us is how we work with people is important, and we engage people, and who we bring into our circle is important for us. I think we're pretty sociable and important to connect.
Mhm.
to other people. I think that's a big thing of who we
Yeah,
are.
I think together we do really. I feel like we kind of gather strength from each other. We recently did a speaking engagement together, because we now work together, career as well. So for our business purpose life, and I feel like we gain strength from each other by, especially in rooms where we're engaging people. I feel like we kind of look out for each other. We've been married for a while, so I really feel like together we kind of understand, I guess, when each other is overwhelmed or kind of need something. I feel like I feel comfortable, and I feel like um with that, like when something like if I'm, something is off and we're out, Ben is really will he's good about kind of catching on to what I'm feeling. So yeah, I think together we I don't know, we really support each other. So
I love it, you all. You all have already started
okay.
getting into, I'm sorry, can y'all hear me and see me?
Yeah.
Good. Into this beautiful cohesion that you all have together. Just in that question, you all are by far the couple that has spent the most time on that "Who are we?" question. And I love how thorough you all are. It's so good. It's so good. So, how did you meet? How did you meet? And we definitely want a his and her version for this one.
Okay. You want to go first?
Yeah, and then yeah. So we met in college and church. So she's gonna go do some stuff with the little one. So we met in college, sophomore, junior year. So Erica was kind of busy on campus doing some event stuff through the church. So I met her through that and by attending the congregation at the time. And so, when I first met her, I thought she was very smart, very attractive, of course. And then she was very much about like handling things as far as the organization that she was a part of at the time. And that was attractive too, as far as like her being able to do things and how engaged she was with those activities. That was important to me, especially with church. The uh church, not program, it was a church.
It was like a young adult ministry.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Club. a club, a club or something like that. Yeah, I guess it would be. But yeah, so that's how we met. Did you want to do your part, your version?
Yeah. So I met Ben, I would say sophomore year in college, about sophomore year in college. And we didn't date right away or anything. We would just I met him through church since he was from the Nashville area. And I'm from Memphis originally. Uh-oh. So I'm from Memphis originally. So we met at U of M, and he was kind of visiting churches in the area. And so we met, I would say first through, I guess, a mutual friend. She was like, "Hey, do you know Ben? He's visiting in town." And so we connected at church, but we also connected at school, and we were friends for a while. And sorry, y'all, we have a 3-year-old who's very busy. So if we get up abruptly to you all and to whoever sees us in the future, we apologize because we have a little bitty. But and she does not care about any recording or meeting that we're doing. Yeah, so we were friends first. Ben used to flirt. I'm gonna mess with him for a second since he walked away. Ben used to flirt, but at the time, I don't know, I hadn't we were friends, but I was like, oh, we're friends. And so initially when I guess made a move, we didn't we didn't like date right away. And then I later on, my friends joke with me like, oh no, you like Ben, you do like him, you really like him. And so I guess before I was in denial, and then I don't know what happened. I think a couple of different factors. I had I was in college, and one of the things I wanted to be intentional about was not being like obsessive about dating. So I think for me, one of the things I had prayed about was like I didn't want to be obsessive. So a lot of my peers were like, you know, we were still sophomores, so that was very, very like a very high priority in college. But for me, I was like, me and a friend were like, we just wanted to be more intentional because we wanted to just enjoy ourselves. We didn't want to spend time like chasing guys or being too obsessive. So I think that helped because I feel like our friendship was natural. And I got to know him, and similarly, it was a lot of qualities that I wanted as far as dating. Um, and I felt like they were based off my grandparents really influenced me. So I was kind of looking for more traditional roles. Like I was looking for someone who was a leader. I wanted, and this is kind of both immediate and long term, just thinking about in general, like, oh, what I want a husband one day. I wanted somebody who's a leader, somebody who was my friend, who I feel like I could be comfortable with because I feel like I'm a quirky person, and someone who I found attractive. And so, yeah, Ben was really active in his frat, and he was active in church. And so I found that attractive. And then I I told I shocked him one day. I remember it was exam week, and I said, I have something to tell you. And he was like, what? And I was like, I have feelings for you. And so after that, we I don't know, we had dinner, and we and I guess maybe both of us are kind of we're very serious. So we had dinner and we talked about it, and then we decided we wanted to date. That was, yeah. I gave y'all the longer version with more details, but that's how we met in church and school.
Nice. I love how you all sat down, had a meeting about it. Love it. I love it. But I think it was kind of like foreshadowing the work that you all do together, right? Like
Yeah.
you all are used to like, let's get this together. I love it. I love that. Almost like the business sense of it, right? And look at you now. It's really cool. Okay, so how did you know that things were getting serious? And that your spouse was the one? Like what happened in that dating phase?
It's a time over time you get to know somebody, and so it's not just you have ups and downs. So then you can have a picture of who people are, not just when things are going well, when things aren't going as well. So if you can, at some point, all right, you can work through problems, not that you get rid of them, but can you work through them? That's the important part for me. If you can work through them. And are you at some point like, hey, are you willing to commit? Is this what a decision? It's a decision. It's just being intentional. At whatever point that comes, and that's where you just kind of make that decision, and you just you make the decision and go with it. But it was, we had some time to be able to know each other and know what we like, what we didn't like, and then from there you can determine, hey, I mean, everything's not gonna be perfect, but where we are, man, that's someone I'm willing to serve, someone I'm willing to live with and build with. And yeah, that was it for me.
Yeah. I'm always interested to hear the guy's side when people ask us about, oh, how did you know they were the one? I think like a couple of things that being said, I would agree and just add to, I mean, like any couple, we had our ups and downs, especially too, we were so young. We were in our early 20s when we started dating, and then, made it official that we're going to date exclusively. And I don't even know if we had the conversation. We didn't outright say it, but I think both of us being Christians, we were probably already in the mindset, I would say, like in my particular dating pool, I don't know about, the rest of our peers, but when I'm dating with the intention that it's going to be not necessarily someone I'm just going to marry, but it's going to be, more long-term. And then hopefully this is someone who wants to commit and, it can potentially be my spouse. But again, I think like I saw qualities in Ben that I felt would translate well to other things. So again, one of the things that stands out, and it, like I say, it's probably a theme, is that is leadership. Like as a woman, I was wanting someone who I felt like was a good leader. And to me, that translates well into long-term. I do believe, in the biblical setup of the family. So if I'm looking for someone, if you can't make good decisions in kind of your day-to-day, how are you going to lead our household? So again, like when situations arise, Ben was a really hard worker. There is never not a point when he was not working, and one time he was, and that did not last long. We were really young, but he has really great work ethic. So he was always working, studying. He always was focused on like after school. So like after school, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. So I liked his like ability to long-term plan. And like he said, we had some challenges. And so for me, change behavior was a big one. And so even after our challenges being, this was years ago, but he said something that that kind of made me say like, okay, yeah, I'm on. He gonna be my husband. But we were arguing or something, and he said like, he said something like, I would rather work it out with you than us be apart. And so, and then with that, like again, just both of us were willing to change some behavior and make some sacrifices. And so again, the bad situations I feel like did highlight that we were, how he was able to handle conflict and how we were able to handle conflict. So yeah, just like a lot of things, his work ethic, ability to handle conflict, his leadership skills, and abilities, those were all important.
I love how cognitive this thinking through these qualities. I love how you think, Erica. Erica's like you're a very practical thinker. And so is Brother Roberts too. Wow, that's so cool. Okay, so it sounds like you all observed each other. You watched each other make changes over time. And it wasn't just a ooey gooey lovey feeling. It was also, okay, there's some concrete things I see about this person that are making me say yes. That is beautiful. So this question is not on the list. So tell us about the proposal. How did that go down?
So I proposed where we had our first kiss. So I just it was yeah, that's where we had our first kiss. So it wasn't a whole lot, like as far as like it wasn't a lot of people there, and it was after we went out to eat.
It was very late.
It was very late. So we had it was a late time that I'm sorry. We but yeah, so it was right after we got done eating, and so just took her back to where we were, and then that's where I proposed, and it was like it was like I don't know.
I remember my family being upset because I was texting them at like 2 a.m. because I couldn't sleep after he proposed, and was like, guess what? I'm engaged. But but yeah, no, he did. We went out to dinner, and then we were just walking around. And yeah, he took me, and I think too, I was surprised that he remembered where we had our first kiss. And so yeah, that's where it was. It's in like a downtown area in Memphis. So
yeah, and at that point, I think we've been dating for like 3 years, almost. Yeah, 3 years or so. Yeah.
That is beautiful. Now I must know. I lived in Memphis for 6 years. Now I gotta know where did he propose?
It was
South Main, that area.
South Main.
So, right, not far, kind of like an area not far from the I guess now it's it's some railroad tracks, and then there's like the Civil Rights Museum, kind of that little area right in between the street, off South Main.
Ooh, that's that good Memphis love.
Yeah.
All right. So looking back on some of the expectations that you had before marriage, How have those expectations changed?
I think I know for me, um, just being transparent, I think there was a period, especially like again, so we were in our 20s, like early 20s, which is thinking back, like my little sister is 25 and I like joke with her. I was like, I can't imagine you get married, but I was, in my younger 20s. So I think it's easy to kind of, especially like at that transition point in your life when you're in your 20s, to kind of think like, oh, I want this person, I want them to do X, Y, and Z. I want them to kind of fulfill this need, this need, this need. But when you're married and you're kind of faced with reality, like this is a person who's going to change. So I think one expectation for me is that people, it's something that I feel like wasn't necessarily communicated to me. To like, we had wonderful couples to feed into us, so I'll say that first. But I would say that people change, that the person, even in engagement, even in engagement, the person is not the same. After from engagement to marriage to first year of marriage to even now, so we'll celebrate our 9 years next month. Next month we'll celebrate 9 years. So just the fact that who Ben was at 21 is not the same as at in our 30s. And so to me, that the expectation of that that people are going to change, but also within that includes that they might think different, that they might do things different. And then I feel like we have, of course, little quirks that I'm sure I probably annoy him and he annoys me, but it's just kind of like little things like that you don't necessarily think about when you're kind of in the, I guess, the lovey-dovey honeymoon phase. Is that people are going to change, like people are going to transition. And you and that person may not transition and change at the same time. So I think that was another expectation that, I understood marriage was a journey, but you kind of assume like, okay, at this year, we're, you might be in the same spot. But I had a friend who shared with me one time, her and her husband were going through something, and something she said resonated with me. She said, I'm in a valley and he's not. And so that dynamic, because that was her season of life, impacted their marriage. And so I think, again, the expectation of how we change as individuals can influence the marriage. That was I guess something I wasn't expecting, but now I have, I don't know, I have a bit more understanding on, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Brother Ross. I was just saying that's deep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think I don't know about expectations that I had. I think I loved Erica where she is, where she was then. And so that set the expectation for future, like where she is right now. If I like that, if I love that, then regardless of what, if it's gonna continue the pattern, if I love her where she is right now, things may not change, which is fine, because she's good where she's at. And I think that's helped in the like, people are going to change and transition, and then there's things you just have to accept because that's where they are, and that's what's going on. And that's more for me than her, like, to accept certain things. So yeah, so I think I don't, the expectation part. And then we did premarital, which set like some of those other expectations, like the expectation of like who's paying bills and who's bringing in this, and what's your thoughts about these things, and what's your thoughts about how this process is going to work, what's your thoughts about how you engage with other people. Like you set some of those, you talk about some of those things before you get started, before you get married. And then sometimes we go back and revisit those things. Like at least in that first year or so, we had to go back and revisit, like, this is what we said initially, but things transform. That's why like things like premarital, having those conversations are so important, because then you talk about expectations, because everyone has expectations of marriage, but a lot of times people haven't been married before. And so, or they've just seen their parents, or they haven't seen a healthy relationship. So, you know, at some point, the expectation of marriage is distorted in some sense. Some way is going to be distorted. So starting off by having those conversations initially help us get on the same page. And it may not have been that much of a shift from where we are, because we had a lot of baseline similarities as far as not necessarily how we were raised, but they were in some sense a two-parent household for the majority part. You say that. And then faith has been a foundational part. And I think that probably was something you were asking anyways, but that has been that helps out with so much, because at the end of the day, you're going to go back to the same baseline. And so that's not a, you know, going back and forth on this baseline as you both grow spiritually, that makes the relationship grow. If you're growing individually spiritually, you're growing a relationship spiritually, that helps the relationship grow and take on challenges. So yeah, that's a lot for that little question.
But it's so good, you guys, because as you all are sharing your story, you're also teaching us. You really are. And you all are both counselors, right?
I'm a counselor.
Okay.
Erica is, so she has her doctorate in educational leadership. And so she does a lot of consulting and things like that. And so I have the license for counseling. So I do counseling. She does more so consulting and EI training, the social emotional intelligence part.
Awesome. So that you all bring that here to us, the counseling and the consulting. Right now, you all are sharing with us, like, y'all got to have a solid foundation that you can go back to. That is what we hear.
No, it's true. It makes a big difference, because you just made me think when Ben was talking about like I've seen good marriages and really bad ones. And I think one of the things I learned was that strong foundation. If it's not, if it's rocky, you're gonna find out. You're gonna find out. So it's like, you know, marriage is beautiful, but one thing too I would encourage people is don't chase the image. Like, you need to make sure the foundation is strong and the person is willing to work with you. Because I mean, that's, like I said, like we've, you know, even having a little one, that brings new challenges. But even I feel like our worst kind of moments that we've had, it wasn't that bad. And I think it goes like to being says like a strong baseline. Like, you know, even if we're mad, I know that I'm gonna pray about it. We can pray about it. And, you know, and some people don't have that. Their go-to is to storm out or do something else. But, you know, I think it's important to have a spouse who will say, like, you know, who will seek a spiritual solution as opposed to another. And I'm not saying we're perfect or we've done it every time, but again, even just being consistent and having a forethought of, you know, I'm gonna pray about it, or I'm gonna talk to someone, you know, and somebody who's spiritually founded as well. Like, I think that helps.
And that's not how our parents handle problems. I don't think that's how your folks handle issues and problems. So we didn't have that as an image of how to handle conflict. And so, like, some, you know, depending on like who you're meeting with and who you're courting, who you're like, those might be things you have to sort through. Is that, and I think we've had our own personal like traumatic things, and that plays out in the relationship. But you got to have an understanding of some of those and how that's going to play out and trigger in the relationship. But that hasn't. So the way we deal with conflicts probably in some ways it's got to be reflective of like what we've seen and how we've been raised with, and that hasn't been something that we were like I guess shown like a lot, that type of conflict resolution. And if it is, then you might something you might need to sort through or understand or have or develop a different way of managing.
That's good. I think realizing a couple of things that you have said. You said people grow and change. And then you said also people have learned certain ways to deal with conflict, right? And then you said that solid foundation. So as you're telling us about your marriage, y'all, we're picking up these nuggets. We're picking up these nuggets. So a little bit to that point, how did you all cope during challenges and not decide, excuse me, and deciding not to walk away?
Being again, we have our little one, so being catering to her needs right now. I would say for me, and again, I just like being transparent because I feel like someone else may be blessed by it. When Ben and I met, my well, I would say when I started college, my parents divorced. So that really, I really had to fight this kind of these intrusive negative thoughts that, you know, I should just walk away or Ben is going to leave me, because it was like Ben said, you have to be cognizant of your traumas and how that might kind of create this lens of how you engage with somebody in a relationship. So for me, and I made the point earlier, it was when the situation arose, Ben's reaction to it and the willingness by both of us to be solution oriented instead of just kind of staying in this emotional state. So I think if, you know, I just kind of went off my emotions, then I'll be like, well, bye, you know, every time so kind of happen. But again, I felt, and I feel like I'm kind of old fashioned this way. I was raised with the idea like the man chases a woman. So just know that's the framework I'm working within. Okay. That is my framework. But even in that framework, and I'm not saying things wrong with it. I mean, of course, a relationship takes work by both parties. But for me, going off that framework, one of the things that that kept me was, again, Ben's effort and his like, you know, no, we you know, we gonna like, I'd rather work this out because I want, you know, I want to work it out too. So again, during conflict, it was his constant commitment, and I guess that's the way to sum it up. He was very like committed to us, and I feel like that played out in his behavior. So it wasn't just words. He like after a conflict, you know, there'd be actual, you know, changes, or he might do something. I'm not saying like bring me flowers. I'm saying whatever the situation was, there were a couple of different times that he would actively do something afterwards to try to ensure that, you know, I don't know, that it didn't happen again. So yeah, I think, yeah, just his behaviors and actions and I think we were blessed. We hadn't just had a lot of really hard, some couples go through like, and I know we're still on our journey, but some couples have gone through a lot of traumatic and really hard experiences. And I think we've been blessed. We've had our hard times. We both made mistakes, but still I think we're blessed because it hadn't been just awful. Yeah, off the wall. So, and again, I think that goes back to being intentional. I know my mom always said some, you know, people make stuff hard and it doesn't always have to be. That's kind of her little saying for me. And I think that applies to, and I feel like that has applied to our relationship because I almost feel like we take that kind of stance. Like some things in life are hard, but you don't want to add to the hard. Like just, just, you know, I think both of us kind of, I don't know. I'm learning to be more go with the flow. I'm actually not go with the flow person, but Ben is very much go with the flow, and that has helped me. That philosophy, because I'm typically not. I'm very like this, but yeah. So I think for me, like I said, change behavior, all of that. That made me stay. That made me like I'm not going nowhere. Like that, you know. So
Yeah, I'm with that 100%. No. Ditto.
He said, yeah, I'm with that 100%. And this is how you make a happy marriage. What she said. It's
Yeah, no,
good stuff. Okay.
we didn't have it wasn't, I think too, like also like you're not going to avoid problems, but the problems you do have, can you work through them? So the biggest piece, not, and the problems you have, are you willing to deal with them and work through them? That's kind of where it kind of boils down to, because you'll have similar problems. People don't change overnight. People don't change in marriage just because they got married. It has to be an intentional process, but are we able to work through challenges, or, so.
Okay, Brother Robert. So your wife did a beautiful job of just edifying you. She said that you actually changed behaviors. When she brought something up, you changed your behavior to support whatever issue or whatever she was talking about. So where did you get the skills to say, okay, well, if there is a complaint, then I'll change? Where did you get that from?
I don't know. I mean, I think all the way you deal with issues and things come from like multiple facets, right? So, so a lot of it's gonna have to, a lot of it probably comes to how, of course, how my parents dealt with conflict, and how I was raised, and especially being so young. I don't even want to say so young, but like how you see your parents, and then just like the value of the relationship, like how much I valued the relationship. So that turned into like the things that I felt like I should do or need to do in order to keep the relationship going, and changes I need to do. So I value the relationship that's going to make a difference in what I do, and how I operate. And then going back to that spiritual sense of like, if that being a foundational part, like for me, like, so I reflect on like what I felt like is right, what speaks to me, what's right in my eyes, and then that helps me in navigating, what I do and what I don't do. So there's a lot of components to it, and then the people you keep around you, your circles, um, that makes a difference too. Like, who are the people you're consulting with makes a difference. So I had some people, not that I hung around all the people that I would consult with, but I consulted with specific people that I valued, how they looked at relationships. I valued their foundation, and so I talked to them. And so I had some people, especially in school, that weren't too much older than me, but definitely I valued how they look, not just with relationships, but how they perceived the world. And really got some information from them that was, validating and able to navigate what I decide to do, what I don't decide to do.
That's good. What I hear is mentors and circles of people who also pour in. That's good stuff. That is good stuff. So unpack for us the concepts of trust and boundaries in the context of a godly marriage. Trust and boundaries.
Yeah. So trusting, so like I've always said that like trust is small things over long periods of time. So trust comes in small increments over long periods of time. And so I think through the years we've built trust over the years that we've had. So it'd be like 9 years this year. And so that like the trust level where it is now is not the trust level where it was year 1, year 2, year 3. Like we've had to be intentional about building that. And that was because there would be things that will like challenge trust, and then trust is part of like boundaries, and boundaries is like small things where it's like, keeping your word, following up on things that you said you were going to do, showing up when you said you're going to show up, hearing what your spouse is saying and then following up on that and doing what that person is like. Those are small things that over a long period of time build trust. And so we've had to build that for a while. And then as we mature, and then like that trust gets built, and we like I said, learn to build trust in both ways. And so like those small things over longer periods of time has really like helped build. And I think we're still building trust in different areas. We got a 3-year-old, so we're learning what boundaries look like with that. We're learning what boundaries look like working together, because that's a new venture. Well, it's not new, but it's not new, but it's
I guess
outside
in
of
this
ministry.
context.
Yeah. And when money's flowing, it's new. So what the boundaries look like when you're working,
with your
like all
spouse.
day, all day, and parenting all day. So you have to be intentional, and then there's space for growth too. So there's spaces to mess up.
Yeah. And I think in these, like, so for us being newer parents, she's 3 now, but being newer parents, I feel like we're in a different phase of our marriage. So like I felt like, almost like I joke with my mom, like, oh, we're about to turn 9 years old, like almost like in a kid sense. Like we're not necessarily babies, but we're still really young in the game. We've learned a lot, but we got a lot to go. So I feel like at this point, being parents, we're in this new learning phase of our marriage. So it's almost kind of like the things we just talked about in some ways, kind of going through a cycle again, like Ben said, of boundaries and trust. And I think one thing I was just going to add is that we like communicating your boundaries, I think is important too. So I think early on and now, like we communicate our boundaries. And so like we were doing a panel the other day and Ben was joking because we were talking about boundaries in the context of mental health. And I think that relates, to spiritual health as well. And the spiritual health of both you and relationship is like when Ben's drinking his coffee in the morning, he doesn't really want to be bothered. And he doesn't want, and I tend to like, I have my little one, so I rush. So I'll just leave something somewhere and forget I left it. And it drives him up a wall, especially if I do it in his coffee spot. But that's a boundary that he said that, it's important to respect because that's kind of his personal time to, gather his thoughts and just kind of get the day started. And then I share my boundary of like, I don't want him talking about the business at late at night. Like I want to wind down. I want chill. I don't want to hear anything about a meeting or anything like that. But
I don't have a problem not being bothered at my coffee. I'm just going to continue drinking.
Oh yeah.
I'm just not going to stop.
But that's your boundary.
But I'm going to continue drinking. We can engage. I'm just going to do it while drinking coffee.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's your coffee time is important. But so but he communicating that boundary. I think it's just important to like don't assume and don't guess, just like tell the person, I don't like this at this time, or I don't like when you do this, and they're gonna either oblige or not. And I feel like going back to what he said, over time, if the person never obliges to your boundaries, then that should be a red flag, because there's nothing wrong with setting boundaries for yourself in your relationship. Unless it's just something irate or something crazy, like there's some trauma rooted there. So like again, there might be, some other issues going on, but nothing wrong with setting boundaries. And again, over time, if the person continues to not oblige them, then that might be something to, discuss, or that might not be somebody who you want as a long-term spouse.
That sounds quite reasonable to me. I don't want anyone to think that we want you to have any short-term spouses, but definitely when you are dating and you see these things, this is good. Someone who doesn't respect your boundaries, major red flag. That's good. That is so good. That is good stuff. Okay. So what role does God have within your marriage?
Yeah, everything. I think from the marriage standpoint, for me as a woman, I I appreciate who God is because he is everything all at once. He's past and present. He's, just so many beautiful attributes about God. I feel when I have an issue, in my marriage or with myself, it's something special about consulting with him because my husband is human and he may not be where I'm at. But the beauty about God is that he loves me just as I am, but also he's the only one who can really help me, deal with situations or deal with, if I'm having a sin problem or if I'm having if I'm stressed about something, if I'm worried, he's truly the only person who could handle that situation and provide me with peace and calmness. Like my husband provides me, with support. He provides me with, he, guides me in something. Like if I have an issue, we consult with each other, but no person can do this, just the wonderful things that God does. So for me, it's just that ability to consult with him. And I know like there have been situations where, I've been stressed out. So when I had my daughter, I struggled with postpartum depression, and I feel like that impacted my marriage. And so there were times where I was just like, I just was, mad at everybody, just mad. You know what I mean? Like see my husband, like, you're just mad, right? And at that time, my husband tried his best to kind of to try to, make me feel better. But like at that point, God was the only person who could help me in that season of my life. So yeah, he's everything. He's how, we handle decisions he influences our decision making as a couple, but also just individually, he helps me be a better spouse. Through prayer and then to God's word helps, gives me, what's the word I'm looking for? It gives me that poke or that little hand tap when I need to. So, if I'm feeling some type of way, the word of God is like, that's your husband. Y'all be in service to each other. Y'all love one another. And his word kind of gives me that redirection when I need to. And again, he helps me be a better person and a better spouse. And I know one of the things I try to be intentional about when I pray is that even if how sometimes we be in our feelings. So even when I'm in my feelings about, my husband or something or whatever, I'll pray like, okay, God, I'm feeling some way right now, but at the end of the day, I still have a role as a wife and a mom and as a Christian. And so what do I need to give my husband in this moment? And I've been more intentional about that prayer, and I definitely saw a difference. And so again, talking to God about it, there was a change in me that can help me be a better spouse. So again, just he provides everything. Like I can't, there's nowhere in my life where God is not. He's in every aspect of our marriage. The question was about what does God mean to you in your marriage?
Mm-hmm.
I answered.
No, but I think we hit on it too, though. In the other questions, that foundational part and going back and
decision making.
Yeah, the decision making, man. That's helpful. And then we're simple things like when we're on the same page with the spiritual part, then there's no issues about like where Brielle's going for worship. There's no separation on Sundays. We're going to the same place. So that helps with building relationships that's in the same community. Mm-hmm. We have similar communities because we come from, the same faith, and we have a lot of intertwining as far as like just relationships and community. So it definitely helps just on the religion side, helps with having the same religion, helps with the community and building community. And we don't get in any spiritually, like we don't get any theological issues. Like we don't have theological issues or things like
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
For the most part. I mean, and if it is something that's theological, it's not an issue. It's just different thoughts, and we can solve. They're not even problems. They don't even come up as problems or issues, which is just another thing that we don't have to stress out about because we're on the same page, religion and from somewhat spiritual components. Yeah.
That's good that you mentioned that too, Brother Roberts, because you know, I think we take for granted sometimes, but you said like your social network and support, as well as theological issues, when you're on the same page spiritually, you don't have a lot of crazy, things. Because imagine if like one person was going to church, one person drank at the bar, and those are two totally different, support systems. But sometimes, and that seems really absurd, like, oh, that's obviously a mismatch. But sometimes we're operating like that with people that we want to be in close community with. So I really appreciate you sharing that. And Sister Roberts, I love that you said, I asked God, what do I need to give my husband right now? What does he need? And that was a game changer. But I love how you said he's everything. He's everything. And thank you for your transparency too about the postpartum depression. Because when we are going through things, I know I had a mental health diagnosis that wasn't just for a season of my life, but it spans my lifespan, right? And we all have something. We all have something, but that spouse is a human and they help and do what they can. But at the end of the day, God, we rely on him for all of it. So I really, really appreciate you saying that as well. Yeah. So looking back, how would you coach your single self in your desire for godly marriage? As a married person now, how would you go back and coach your single self in your desire for marriage?
I think the one thing, and I feel like I've been long-winded, but one thing I would just, I guess, do differently is I was young and Ben was like my first boyfriend, like true boyfriend. I did not have the experience of like a whole bunch of boyfriends in high school. But so I would say not necessarily date around, but I had this point where I was just, I had this point where I was just like, oh, head over heels obsessed. So I would just tell myself to chill out a little bit, girl, and just kind of, I don't know, chill out and make sure that I was good academically, but just taking time to learn myself and travel and explore new places and I don't know, just live life, I guess. I remember having a period where I was just kind of being crazy. So I would just tell myself to chill out.
Okay. That's real deep. She said, chill out. Just that's awesome. But when we get our boyfriends, for the first time and all that, it's such a big deal. It's hard to chill out.
But I would tell myself now, like, girl, go, I don't know, just study abroad. I don't know, just
go. Go study abroad.
I think it's important just to, nothing's wrong, like you said, having a boyfriend, but again, this question is you saying Erica speaking to Erica, I would have told myself to chill out.
All right, Ben. So what would you have told your single self?
Single self? I don't know. I don't know if I would tell myself much about relationships. I probably would tell myself about it's this thing called Bitcoin. And you need to jump on this. I don't know. It's I don't know. I think I think like the decisions and things you make, and like what you do has a, uh, it kind of it helps you in getting in the space you're in now. Um, I don't know what I would have told myself, and because I've thought about that too. Like, all right, what would I say to myself? That's, I guess, relational though. Something about relationships. I do like when you just talked about like traveling and things like that. I think I would definitely have told myself about that. I don't feel like I thought at the time. I don't think I felt rushed. I didn't feel rushed at the time. Um, um,
What is the thing your dad told you? That's something that you told me about
but
falling in
that's
love.
not me. That's not. Um, I don't know. But that's information I already had. So I'm thinking like information that I didn't have, and I think I pursued people. Like I said, having those mentors and people around me, that was information that I had right then. Um, I don't even know if I would have listened to myself when I was younger. I would have yeah, I really think it would have been more so of like I think I really think it'd been more like a financial probably coaching than a relational. But I mean, I think those are
Prepare for your
yeah,
life by
prepare
doing
for
it.
yeah, prepare for your finances, man. Like, dude, you finna get out of college, man. Let me tell you something about this college. After college, things are finna change. That's where my head automatically goes. And then connecting with people on a different basis. But I think during like reflecting my relationship, I think our relationship, of course, it's grown and it's not like it was perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's I think we lasted through a lot of things. It like I've had a lot of friends that were dating someone at the time, and then you build a relationship with them, it doesn't work out, and so that relationship and friendship kind of dwindles because their relationship isn't working, and um, that's happened a lot. And so for a lot of the people that I surrounded myself with, like they know Erica is just as about as well they know me, and it's just like even though they might be connected with someone different than initially, like it all like really worked out. But I think like when you go through whatever you go through, it just helps build the relationship. So it's not about getting stuff perfect. It's just about like learning from what you're going through
And enjoying it. I think we
and
enjoyed
enjoying
our
it. Yeah.
relationship. Like we had
Enjoy it.
fun.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and we didn't, yeah, my stuff would have been more financial stuff. That's what I probably would have coached myself into during college more so than relationship, because whatever we went through, we worked it out, and we're still working things out. So hindsight's always 2020, but I don't know if that would have made any difference. I don't know if that made any difference if I had gotten a different type of coaching than what I already got. If I invested in that Bitcoin, would have made a difference.
So what I hear you saying is get your money right.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So like, finances is one of the biggest things that are relationship problems, which honestly hasn't been a huge thing for as far as like issue. Not that we got millions of dollars in the bank, but I think but it goes back to being able to work through
That was
problems.
a joke, y'all. We don't.
No, absolutely not. But it goes back to being able to work through problems. So if you have problems and you're able to work through them and talk through them, then it doesn't matter the problem. If you got that ability to do that, but that Bitcoin would have
She's so silly.
that would have changed. Bitcoin. What else?
I don't know. I know buying gold was on top of
Gold. Yeah, get on that gold, man. You get on this gold rush. Man, take this loan and buy a house. I probably would have. That might have been something I told, like, hey, get a house now. Get a house
Right out of
now.
college.
Yeah, get a house now. I don't know. That'd have been mine. Huh?
That's good stuff, y'all. I love it. I love it. Okay, so this is our last official question, a last official G Sprinkle question. It's, what advice do you have for singles who desire a godly marriage? So number one, get your money right. Number two, chill out. Give us some more.
I guess for women, especially like a godly marriage and seeking a Christian,
Okay.
um,
carrots.
a Christian man and someone who's spiritually sound. I guess a couple of different things. Continue to work on yourself. Um,
Oh, here we go.
And I think, and I want to say this, I'm trying to think of the best way to say, like, learn yourself, continue to deal with your things. Maybe that's, finding a faith-based therapist. Maybe that's, just learning yourself, just knowing what you like and dislike. Take your time and get to know the person. Go out, not necessarily, I'm not saying like have a wild time, but just like try new experiences or new areas that, or different like activities that you hadn't tried. I know, like, for example, I think like for Ben and I, like there's a lot of commonality outside of church. Like there's certain activities we liked, so we can engage in together. And then like meeting him, like we, especially in college, like we were big movie people. But I will always go to movies, so it wasn't uncommon for us to like kind of meet up or see each other in certain spots because we like similar things. But I may not have seen him in those spaces or able to engage him if I did not go to them. So just, getting out, going out. And I think what's also important that's not really talked about is before you get into a marriage, it's just knowing your body, understanding your health, understanding your physical health, your emotional health, your mental health. Yeah, and just, like I said, understanding who you are, putting yourself out there, showing up as your authentic self. And I'm trying to think too, some of the things like I've shared with my sister. And not, I guess not having too high expectations, but at the same time, it's okay to have standards, and set boundaries and kind of, and again, not being not kind of knowing the red flags and not putting too high expectations on people and realizing they're human. But again, it's nothing, setting boundaries and having standards is fine. It's good. It's good. And keeping in prayer. Just staying prayerful throughout the relationship. And even as you engage with people, staying prayerful and praying that allow God to connect you to who you need to be connected to.
It's good. Yeah, so advice for singles who desire a godly marriage: be okay with being single, invest in being single, learn contentment in what you have, invest in godliness with what you got right now. That's the piece. So like happiness comes with happenings. If you're looking for marriage to create an experience, you'll always be chasing an experience. So find that experience now, find happiness now, find contentment now in what you have. And then when you find contentment in what you have right now, then things like that can add to it. Right? Because you're not missing out on anything. You're not missing out on anything. So
yeah, I think there's blessings. Absolutely. There's blessings in every season of life. there's challenges, but there's also blessings. Like I tell my, my cousins, like, you get to, you can just go, if you want to go to the mall right now, you can just do that. I gotta make sure real good. I need to consult with Ben, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with it, but it's just like, like he said, there's joy in every season of your life, and seeking that joy is important.
Wow. Okay. So enjoy your life in every season. Take your time and stay in prayer. I love it. I love it. I love it. You all have been phenomenal. We may have to bring you all back to do some group counseling sessions. No, but you all, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
No, thanks for having us, and enjoy the platform. Thanks for the questions. Y'all been
These are good
great.
questions.
And the chat's
make
more
us
response.
think.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Oh my goodness, you all. Thank you so much. Again, a special shout out to my sister, Amber Suggs, y'all. She is phenomenal. She is absolutely a phenomenal golden, blue and golden, amazing lady. And she is definitely a powerhouse with bringing these questions that we have. So you all, we're going to go ahead and close out for now. Thank you all so much again for being a part of the Jesus Sprinkle community.